Welcome back to another episode of Timebreaker podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm Anthony.
And, welcome back to episode 22. We're going to be covering The Batman, the newest Batman film by Matt Reeves. But really quick, before we dive into it, just wanted to catch up and say welcome back. We took the week off. And so, if you're still here listening, thank you. And we appreciate you.
Yeah, and sorry for the delay on this episode. We did have another episode planned, but we actually were able to see the Batman on Tuesday night. And so we were like, there's no way we're going to get an episode out on top of seeing it Tuesday night. So then we ended up with this coming out now on a Friday instead. So sorry about the change in schedule, but sometimes it's got to be.
Yeah, and so we just figured that we just delay it like a couple days so that we could talk about this movie fresh, and then instead of having to wait like a whole year. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, because this is releasing like the day it comes out, we're going to talk about spoiler free in the beginning, and then we're going to drop a spoiler warning and then dive in. So if you haven't seen it, don't worry, you're good. But really quick before we get into that, like the biggest movie so far that has come out in the meantime of our episodes, and it's like I see it on TikTok all over the world because, they got to talk about it. It's the number one movie in the world. That's Uncharted with Tom Holland. Anthony and I saw it, and, it was pretty good. It's not great, but it's not, like, crap.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the better end of video game movies because it really is just fun. Outside of that, like, compared to the games, I've only played the first one, so I'm not sure where it really lies because I've heard a lot of people compare it to Uncharted 4. But, I mean, if you take it as like Tom Holland being Nathan Drake, I feel like you'll like this quite fine. I'm not sure if he's like, actually being like Nathan Drake from the games, but he's definitely being Tom Holland. And this movie's
he is.
Yeah, the movie's kind of whack. There's a lot of like plot weirdness and some physics issues with this movie, but like if you're looking for a good time, not a bad one.
Yeah, I'd say it delivers. Yeah, I haven't seen any of I haven't played any of the Uncharted games, so I was going in pretty fresh. Have you seen the Tomb Raider movie, the new one?
No, I haven't. So
I feel like those are really like comparable franchises. So I just was curious.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about the 2018 one. I heard it was much better than the Angelina Jolie
ones.
Yeah, from the early 2000s. I've never actually gotten the chance to sit down and watch it. I bought it last year on sale for like $5 on 4K, and I just have not gotten around to watching it. I heard it was natively in 4K though, so that was why I was gonna get it on Blu-ray, but I was like, oh, in that case, I'm just gonna like wait it out until I can find a copy. So
nice, but yeah, I mean, it was still entertaining, and I hope that like it seems like it was profitable, that so the next one can be like maybe a little bit better quality wise. And I found Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg entertaining, and I'd watch the second one.
Yeah, I think they had a good pairing together, and honestly, with the ending, I would love to see a sequel sooner rather than later, to be honest.
Yeah, and at the rate at which Sony moves, especially with like Tom Holland and his schedule, and I feel like it's totally possible that we can get it in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, well, except for the fact that Tom Holland says he's taking a break from acting. We'll see if he actually does or not, though.
Yeah, people usually say that, and then somebody comes out with a big bag of cash, and then they come back. But that's how that usually works. So yeah, anyway, that's it. So I just wanted to quickly recap the stuff, and now it's time to drop into the Batman. We're going to be talking about spoiler free right now, so just our initial thoughts. Anthony, take it away.
All right, so I'm going to give a fair warning. We didn't see the first minute and a half of this movie, so our opinions
was it really that long?
Screwed. It's by the time we sat down and everything, yeah, we were probably a minute and a half to 2:15 in. The funny thing is, walking into the theater, I knew exactly what scene it was, and I'm like, I need to get to my seat, and I want to see this, but sadly, I just wasn't able to. But outside of that, movie is really, really, really good. Probably the best Batman movie I've seen since The Dark Knight Rises. I like this a lot more than The Dark Knight Rises. Not to say The Dark Knight Rises is bad, but this is like on level with The Dark Knight. I still think The Dark Knight is a better...
On level?
I still think The Dark Knight is a better film, but this is a very, very close second.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had a good time with it. Matt Reeves is one of my favorite directors working today. I love his, his style and his you know, his commitment to like practicality, and you know, this movie has a very unique visual style, and it's very much like a comic book come to life, like no other movie I've really seen. It just has this aesthetic to it, and you've seen it in all the marketing, all the posters. It keeps that throughout. You know, the cast top to bottom was really awesome, and I thought it was a good villain. It's a tad too long, but and for me, like, I just want to put it out here, like, I do really like this movie. And so, like, nobody come at me and say I'm hating on this movie or I don't like it, because I actually really do like this movie. But because I can't help it, I'm gonna compare it a lot to like the Nolan movies, because those are like my Batman movies. That was the first time I was ever exposed to the character, so that's just in my DNA. That's like how I just view the character. And also, because of how much this movie is like Seven, I'm just gonna be talking about it in comparison to Seven because it's so similar.
And in my defense, I have not seen Seven, and I have more Batman exposure than just a Nolan trilogy.
Yeah, so we got two very different perspectives coming in here. But overall, it's a good time. You know, if you got the 3 hours, I'd sit down and watch it. And it's very entertaining. It's very, you know, edge of your seat in like all the right ways. Like, this is a very detective noir type of film, which it was refreshing to see them take that spin and kind of like dive deeper into that side of the character versus getting another, just a rehash of what we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different than like any Batman we've seen on the big screen. Like, I don't even know how to describe just how big of a difference this is. This isn't just a broody, broody, dark movie with a Batman for the entire runtime just kicking people in the face. Like, this is really, yeah, it is a noir detective movie with a lot of action elements in it, but in its core, it's a detective movie. And yeah, I mean, getting to see this in a feature film is really cool because, you know, the Nolan movies, I feel, tried to kind of give this look at it. But having the title of, you know, greatest detective and really never doing any detective work is kind of how the Nolan trilogy plays out. But thankfully, the Nolan trilogy has so many other things going in its favor that you can kind of just overlook it. It's a very different Batman, and so not having any exposure to it, you can kind of forgive them not doing it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's just not what Nolan like was going for, like 100%. Like, that's an aspect of the films, but it's much more grander and, you know, wider in scope than just like the case.
Yeah, and where I feel this one was designed with it in mind, and you know, and you know, I think that's a big difference. You know, I think if Nolan had used the Riddler and had never went through Batman's detective stuff, I think it definitely would have hurt the film. But you know, starting this Batman series, because I imagine that's what it's going to end up being. Starting it with the Riddler, I feel like you had to show this detective side of Batman, and I'm really hoping we still get to continue seeing this new side of Batman. I'm hoping a sequel doesn't just cash in and just make it a action movie where we're just watching Batman beat thugs up for 2 hours.
I don't think they'll do that. You know, I have faith in Matt Reeves. You know, he's delivered on every film that I've seen him. I've seen like almost all of his films. Cloverfield is really awesome. Both Dawn and War were very amazing for the Planet of the Apes movies, and I'd say they were very similar and consistent in tone and execution. So I don't see any reason why like a sequel to this wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things I really liked. Because this isn't really spoilers, but we talked about when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, we talked about the fact that there was one scene where Spider-Man uses an ability that is featured in the games, and like that was a really cool thing to see. And in this one, it's not that we haven't seen it before, but the execution and how it happened. There is a scene where Batman's about to get hit, and he takes the bat out of someone's hand, and he literally just slams him back with it. And it's so reminiscent of the Arkham games, and the type of combat in this movie. It feels very not Nolan like, but it feels more like Arkham Knight. Just the Arkham series in general. It's got this very like grounded fight style, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people compare it to like the video game series too, and yeah, just the fighting feels very gritty and visceral, and that just matches the whole tone of the movie. And I think that's what this movie's biggest strength is that tone. It's that mood that it's gloomy.
Yeah, and it's not to say that this movie. So this isn't Joker. I don't get me wrong. Joker is really really good, but if you're not willing to sit there for 2 hours and literally watch a movie that has no light whatsoever in it at all, thankfully this is not that. This is, yes, it is dark. It is really dark. It is very violent. It is. I mean, every ounce of this movie deserves its PG-13 rating, and a few different shots, and yes, this thing absolutely would have been rated R. But there are hopeful scenes. There is a light at the end of this dark, gloomy tunnel, and there are scenes that aren't like that, where I never felt that way about Joker. I felt like Joker, the whole time I was sitting, it was a very, very, very serious movie. And this is also the same way, but it's kind of got that blend that Nolan was able to do, where yes, it's really, really dark, but he's able to combat it with, some comedy here and there. I know that I laughed in a point in the movie.
You laughed one time where literally nobody else laughed, and that's what was so funny about it. I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but it was.
I know
so
what
funny.
it was, and I'll talk about it later. But
Okay.
I actually laughed at a point in this movie when no one else did, just because of just what was going on in this scene. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to discourage people from watching it. Like, yes, it's dark. Yes, it's violent. Yes, it's not for everyone. It definitely is not for kids. Like, I kid you not. This is another one of those PG-13 movies, like, not for kids. Not in any sort of way. It's a very adult movie. And it deals with adult themes, and it's, yeah, again, really violent, but it's so, so good. And, I'm with Daniel. There's a lot they probably could have cut. They could have gotten this movie probably down to 2.5 hours if they'd really worked at it. But honestly, seeing Warner Brothers take practically a risk. Not only is this a brand new Batman, it is the longest Batman movie we've ever had in the theater. Because Batman vs Superman had its Ultimate Edition at home, and that's kind of partial. It's a part Batman, part Superman movie. So the fact that Warner took a gamble on this, I mean, they have a brand new Batman, longest runtime, a very, very dark. They are taking a big risk, and honestly, I think it's going to pay off for them.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, yeah, like you said, it's not like there's parts of action, but it's not like a superhero action movie. It's totally not. It's this very dark, creepy. It's like Zodiac, it's following a serial killer within this Arkham City. And yeah, definitely not for kids. And there's some stuff that is displayed on screen that is very disturbing. And like, if I was a person, I would not want to live in Arkham. That city's got too much crap going on. Like, I don't know why anybody wants to live in Arkham, but yeah, it's just a dark movie.
Yeah, it's dark, but like, I feel like there's enough in it that you're not going to walk out and go, oh my gosh, that movie was so dark. Like, I don't even know.
No, it's not like depressing. It's just like it's very
violent,
mature.
It's violent, mature, and I don't want to scratch around the surface there. Like, we saw that initial trailer 2.5 years ago, I think now, or maybe it was slightly almost 2 years ago. We saw that trailer, and like everyone was kind of like, holy moly, like, because we haven't seen a Batman this violent on screen. Maybe, like, I was thinking maybe we saw it with like the Snyder Batman, but not like this. It's a very young Batman. It's and Daniel was telling me, well, Batman Begins dealt with a young Bruce Wayne, Batman Day One, but I'm like, I think there's just a big difference because no one kind of jumped into the traditional Batman from Day One, where this is a very year one, year two. Granted, they literally tell you it's year two, but year two Batman, like, and it's a very young Batman. It's a very different Batman, and so anyone walking in saying I've seen Batman a billion times, this is like the Tom Holland of Spider-Man. It's like, it is such a different approach to what they were doing that you actually are gonna have no idea what they're gonna pull.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope you can tell how how delicate Anthony and I are trying to talk about this movie without going into spoilers, but let's just dive in. This is your spoiler warning. Let's get into this movie, the good, bad, and the ugly, and let's start off with the titular character, the Caped Crusader. How is Robert Pattinson as the Battinson?
If I could say F words on this, really good. Like, there would be an F word in there. Like, phenomenal. They're like him being Batman and him being Bruce Wayne. They are such different characters, and we're in spoiler territory right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so for some people it might be like, well, Robert Pattinson's not really playing Bruce Wayne, but there's a scene later in the film when things are not going his way and he needs a new lead. So he becomes Bruce Wayne and he's out in the rain, and like you can just see he is playing Bruce Wayne, and every time he shows up in public you can see that he's playing someone and that he's not really comfortable being Bruce Wayne. And it's just, it's not something you see with Nolan's Bruce Wayne. This is something you don't see with Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. Again, I feel like even though we don't have a lot of time with this Bruce Wayne, I feel like I know the character better throughout the short amount of scenes he's in this one better than I did in the other ones, if that makes sense. And so there's that scene. Sorry, hold on. There's that scene in the rain where he goes to talk to Falcone, I believe, where he goes upstairs to learn the truth about his dad. And like, you can see that he's playing Bruce Wayne, but also that this is all like shocking news to him. He just plays it so well and so believably. I thought Robert Pattinson did a great job.
That's very interesting you say that. And like, that's a very interesting take. I'm surprised to hear that because like I think he did an amazing job. I don't want to hear any slander about Twilight Boy because he's clearly evolved past that. Robert Pattinson is an amazing actor. We saw that in Tenet. He's shown that in a lot of other movies, and he's phenomenal in this movie too. I think it's just the way the character's executed or it's written. I don't know, but for me, just like to me, the Bruce Wayne aspect was lacking a little bit, and yeah, I just don't know if it's because of the way it is. Because to me, it's not like there's no Bruce Wayne. To me, he's always Batman,
and I think
like,
that's
he's I get that's the point, but like the my favorite scene of him is as Bruce Wayne was when he was there with Alfred, because that's like the only time you got to see like a shred of who he really is. But the rest of the time, like even when he's Bruce Wayne, he's still in Batman mode, just like constantly scanning people, reading the environment. He's never like I appreciated in the Nolan movies where he had to put up this facade to make people obviously think that it's not him. Whereas like I feel like if you had two brain cells, you'd be like, yo, that's him.
Yeah, I can understand that argument, but I also, with the way that they're presenting him. So in the Nolan movies, Bruce Wayne is a rich billionaire who is, he parties, he buys things, he drives expensive cars. You don't see that side. And, I think if we saw that side and then he's still kind of acting like Batman while doing all these other things, I feel like I would understand that argument. But he is a social outcast. You can tell that when he arrives to the funeral, just the shock that Bruce Wayne has shown up, because he is a social outcast. Well, he's not an outcast, but he doesn't.
He's a recluse.
Yeah, he isn't a public, like he's a public figure they know of, but he's not like an actual. He does not go into public very often. He's not seen a lot. He, pretty much is in the shadows, and so for him to show up to something, is a shock. And so I think that's why it doesn't give it away, because no one's ever around him. How would they know? He is someone that doesn't, deal with the normal person.
That's fair. Yeah, it's almost like he is the way Pattinson is. It's like if you took the Dark Knight Rises, like the beginning Bruce Wayne, like the injured one. It's like that's who he is, like the whole movie. Where he's just like pent up in the mansion, like nobody ever sees him. It's kind of like that aspect.
I will say there was something that was the one odd thing. That mansion is just weird. Like, not the the Bat Cave in parentheses. The underground tunnel Bat Cave. the whole mansion thing, like the decorations in there, the furniture, it's just it threw me off. I won't lie. That was one of the things in the movie that was just super duper weird for me.
It's like it's like an old cathedral. Like it's like almost like a church, like weird aesthetic medieval type of vibe in there.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't know. For me, it was weird. But I mean, that was one of my only that was one of the only things that like really threw me off in the movie. Everything else just kind of went naturally, and I've started to feel this way about some movies, but like they're not actually epics. But the way they use their runtime is so precise. I mean, so think about the fact that Batman goes back to Penguin's, like the club that Penguin's at. He goes there. How many times do you want to say? 4, 5 times?
It's a bit of times, dude.
But you get this different run every time, and so it allows you to.
It's not repetitive.
Yeah, it lets you, but it's fun because like the first time he shows up as Batman, and so like the guys are like get lost, and then he barges in, and that's where we get the scene that I was talking about, where you really get to see that Arkham combat, and we missed one hell of a fight scene because we had entered late, and so I guarantee that's gonna also. I guarantee I would have seen the similarities there. But sadly, we came in. If everyone's seen the trailers, everyone's now seen the movie because we're in spoiler territory.
Right. It's I'm Vengeance is the opening scene.
And I won't lie. I was pretty mad. I was mad that was the one thing I was missing. I was like, Bruce Wayne's parents couldn't die again.
Yeah. No, but like, I mean, going back to it, like aside from Bruce Wayne and my flaws with that, like, as Batman, I think he delivers. He's menacing, he's brooding, he's quiet, he's calculating, and all the right ways. He fills that detective box so well. He is a little bit inexperienced, I'll say, but that's like what they're going for. And so like it'll be cool to see him like kind of evolve into that pristine role.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting watching him do that. Like over, I don't know,
especially with the next villain.
Yeah. I don't know, over the course, I mean, it really depends on how long they do this, but even over the course of a trilogy, watching him, evolve will be interesting. I feel like you'll start to see more of the being able to play two characters. More
Bruce Wayne.
But stepping aside from just talking about Batman, let's talk about the Riddler.
Yeah, like I think it's perfect villain for this story. The detective, this is the serial killer, this is the Zodiac kind of vibe we were going for. And like some people say, if it's serial killer vibe, it's very similar to Joker. I feel like it's very different from Joker. It's very cryptic, with all the riddles, and like I don't know, like all I can say is like it's Zodiac. Like that's like if you watch Zodiac, like that's totally what this is. Paul Dano does a great job. He's menacing and uncomfortable, like that's a word that comes to mind, just watching him do his thing. And I like how they modernized it.
I haven't seen those movies, so I can't really say much about similarities, but yeah, like he was a very menacing villain, very calculated villain, and you get to the end and things are starting to be unrattled, and Batman goes to Arkham to see him, and this is supposed to be a turning point for the Riddler because he won. And one of my favorite things that happens is that Batman tears him down, only for Riddler to figure out that he actually doesn't know yet, and so like he really truly gets like the last laugh out of it. The I won run. And I didn't see that coming. I mean, I knew there was something still left, but I didn't see Batman be able to tear him down so bad to the point where like he's like losing it because he feels like he's completely screwed up. And then getting able to see that like the immediate turnaround of like he literally goes from like weeping and being like sad and angry to immediately pretty much telling Batman straight up, "You're not as smart as I thought you were."
Yeah, I know. It's like the amount of layers and directions that Paul Dano can go in that like one scene is just incredible. And yeah, like I did like in that moment I'm like this can't be it, because like I didn't feel like there was like a final confrontation in that, with them. And so like to see that there was like something a little bit more, I was like, okay, good that there's a payoff for this. And they leave the door open with him, like they could use him in the future. I don't know if he's going to be another main villain or if he's just going to be like a kind of like a scarecrow role. But yeah, I mean, he could totally come back.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of roles he'll have. I think it just depends on the way the story goes. I mean, technically the ending is telling us that Joker and him are friends, so
yeah,
technically.
And do you know who was Joker?
The guy that played.
He's in the Eternals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
What? Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, I know the actor's name. I was trying to figure.
Druig.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's a phenomenal actor too. So it'll be very interesting to see that execution if they go Joker next outing.
Yeah, it was a different reveal than we've ever seen for Joker. You don't really get a close up, so it'll be interesting.
See him through like a door, basically.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see that play out. Catwoman was pretty good in this movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, she was very, very good. Nice counter. Like opposite of Battinson, and I don't know. Like I didn't buy their romance. Like it felt like she just kept kissing him, and he's like, "What's going on?" And then at the end, he's like, "I want something," and she's like, "Nah, honey," and then just left. But I mean, other than that, like they worked well together, and they kind of like played off each other well, and you could tell like they're not like a full-on team, but they still like kind of have like similar alignments, and I thought that was a nice multi-layer aspect to it.
Yeah, I thought the ending with them like going separate ways was really weird, because like she went out of her way to save him in just a scene previous, and then to pretty much be like, dip, I'm out. Granted, I'm not 100% sure she's gone. Like, I feel like
she can always come back.
I'm pretty sure she'll be back in the next one. Like,
I don't know, but like the way it was shot, it was almost like it went on for a really long time, and I'm like, is she just gonna turn around? Like, I was just waiting for that, or like, is she just gonna like go and join him at the last second? I don't know. It just like lingered for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the camera lingered for a while, and like I think it was there to show us that like she's not looking back, because like in a scene like that you would expect like one last look at each other, but she does not look back. She just keeps going.
She just goes. Yeah.
But isn't he like, he's not looking back, but he's looking in his mirror.
Right. So he's kind of looking, seeing what she does. Yeah. But overall I thought she was a really good addition to it. Everybody else, I thought, okay, well the biggest scene stealer for me is Colin Farrell as Penguin.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on the guy. Like he's good in the role, but like I'm not sold on Penguin.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, just talk about a transformation, dude.
Holy, if they didn't have his name in the credits and I didn't know about it, yeah, I wouldn't know it was him, because
you absolutely wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's a crazy transformation.
But I even thought John Turturro was really good. He was like kind of menacing, kind of like cryptic at the same time as Falcone.
Yeah, my favorite scene with the Penguin was probably either the scene with the car chase, which was really well done. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be based off the trailers. It went a lot different than I thought it was going to go.
Talk about the sound design, though.
I'm going to get to the sound of this movie. I'm going to get to the sounds. I'm going to get to cinematography, and I'm going to get to the way this movie was shot, dude.
Just making sure.
That's probably going to be the last thing I talk about, because I might talk a while, because there's some good stuff.
Okay, yes, you're on Penguin. Okay.
Yeah, so car chase, really good. I really like the club scene, the first one. Not he does a good job outside of that, but I love that first one where Batman's just beating up these guys, and then he just kind of shows
and then it's
up.
Like whoa, take it easy, sweet. Yeah, that was really good.
And he just kind of shows up and brings this kind of menacing atmosphere to it, and he really doesn't do anything. He just says whoa, and like pretty much like, but the fact is, like, he kind of just steals, not the scene, but, like, he just steals the energy in the room.
The power. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I also thought it was cool that, like, you know, like we could see Batman interact with, like, these villains as if they're, like, real people, you know, within Gotham. You know, it's not like, you know, it's got to be a showdown. Like, he could just go in there, casually talk. Kind of like how, like, you know, I mean, Bruce Wayne did it to Falcone in Batman Begins, but I feel like it was a different execution in this one.
Well, the interesting thing is that you get to, you know, comparing it to that, you literally get to see him do it in both directions, which is really weird because, you know, Penguin acts a lot different when he's Batman. When he's Bruce Wayne, he almost laughs him off because he's just this rich kid.
Yeah, they don't have any respect for him, but, like, as Batman, they, like, know what he can do, so they're kind of, like, on edge a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're scared of him, but they are.
But they respect him a little.
It's more of a they're aware of what he can do. Like, they're not stupid.
Yeah, like, he's been at this for 2 years. Like, they know that he's done some stuff.
And I think that's just a really, really cool thing about this movie is, like, there's a lot of layers to these characters, you know, and you get to see them interact with a lot of different people. And the fact is that you get to see them interact with Batman, and you get to see them interact with Bruce Wayne, because that's just how the story gets to be untold, or gets to be told.
Yeah, and, you know, Matt Reeves does a very good job of world building and making this Gotham feel like it's very lived in, and it's been a place for a while. And, you know, like, even seeing Gordon's, like, really front and center of this movie. I wasn't really expecting that. You know, it's really him and Batman, almost like a buddy cop in a way.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it reminds me a lot of the Arkham games. There's this very clear dynamic between them. And, you know, Nolan's films execute this really well as well. But, you know, you're not having... So I think the difference here is you're not having this bond from Batman with Gordon. Because that bond in Nolan's trilogy is the fact that Gordon was there for him when his parents were killed. And this one doesn't explicitly show or say that. And so I feel like this is a mutual just... both are benefiting from each other, and there's this respect between that, specifically between Gordon. Gordon puts a lot of trust into Batman. And it's not that Batman doesn't put a lot of trust into him, but Gordon puts a lot of trust in with no guarantees, you know, that he's gonna pan out.
Yeah, when he's like, "You could have pulled your punch," and he's like, "I did." That was so funny.
All right, let's get to the part I laughed at, because you made me laugh, and I'm like, we need to talk about that. So we get, like, I would say, what, halfway? There's a scene.
I feel like it was a little towards. It was almost like 3/4.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a scene where he figures out that Bruce Wayne is the next target, and so he knows that Alfred's in danger, and he's driving. Why are you laughing?
I think I know when you laugh.
Yeah, you do know when I laugh now. So, you know, he's going that way, and what I really thought was epic about this was the fact that, you know, the phone finally picks up, and then he realizes it was an hour ago. But for the audience, we're seeing it unfold.
In real time.
And so it's just, you know, not a lot of movies do it. But when they do it, and they do it well, I really like when they do stuff like that. When they really
when did you laugh?
When did I laugh? We're getting there. So anyway, Alfred, okay. You know... not dead, because, you know, we can't kill him off in the first installment.
No, low-key, I thought they were going to do it, because I thought they were going to do it, liberties. Too. I was like, no shot they're going to kill Alfred.
I thought they were going to do it. I thought they'd already done it, and then we see him in the hospital bed. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
But anyway, so then we get to see Batman looking over him. He's got no next of kin. And, you know, then we have... Exactly. Bruce Wayne start to figure things out, and this is where he's hit kind of a roadblock and he needs answers, so he goes down to Penguin's club to talk to Falcone about what happened to his dad. And so Bruce Wayne, after figuring out the truth, freaking goes and sits next to Alfred. This man, like, got almost blown up, just woke up, and the first thing
it's the only family he's got. He's so happy to see him, and then
this bastard just goes, "You lied to me, Alfred." I'm like, yo, and I'm just the only one in the theater out of everyone. I just go,
so cold.
Like, it was so quiet in the theater. I just go,
And then everybody laughed, but Anthony laughed.
Dude, I just thought it was like the balls. Like, what?
Yeah, it's such a cold move to make.
Like, not a.
Like, this homie just almost died, and you're like, you lied to me.
Literally, dude. I thought it was funny. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting him to say. And
I mean, but yeah, going off of that, like, I was like, throughout the film, I was like, I mean, I love Andy Serkis, but his Alfred was kind of lacking for me. Not really in the movie. No, it doesn't do a whole lot. But then he has that one scene, you know, Andy Serkis does what Andy Serkis does, and I'm like,
here comes an
damn,
ape.
he's pretty good. He becomes an ape. Yeah, no, but I mean, that one scene really did a lot for Alfred.
Yeah, I mean, it gives him another depth, and it shows us another side of Thomas Wayne. And it kind of gives a twist to what we had just learned.
Yeah, which I'm glad they did, because I was gonna be very surprised if they like made Thomas Wayne out to be like a terrible person.
I mean, yeah, it would have been a weird and odd choice, but also, I mean, think about it. It would have been a really interesting one to go down because...
No, yeah, it's very refreshing and necessary, which is why I thought they were actually going to do that.
But of course, you have to go down the typical route because, you know...
Yeah, they still got us first.
So one thing I was confused about, and I was sitting there because it took so long for this to happen, because they showed in the trailers Batman, like, trudging through water, and I'm like...
Yeah, I was like, when is this going to happen?
Yeah, and, you know, and then literally... I didn't know until literally the moment they were talking about the seawalls getting destroyed. I'm like, oh. But then it still didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why is he trudging through the water? Like, I could not for the life of me try and figure that one out. And
the way it's like shot and the way it's lit, I thought it was like in like a cave or like a sewer or something. But
I thought it was cops when I saw it. Like, I thought the cops were following him into somewhere.
Yeah, but it's just him leading people to safety through the water, which is what Batman does.
Yeah, and so this is why for me, I really, really, really need the trailers to only be the first like half the movie.
Honestly,
because I know I pay too close attention, and so if there's a scene that hasn't gone by, I'm gonna be sitting there going, "Well, I know a scene is coming up." Yeah, which is why, you know, honestly, the first trailer, like the original trailer we got, reveals nothing. Everything that happens in that original trailer is from like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, yeah, the last shot is like with him in the car after he flips Penguin car, right?
I don't even know if...
Or is that the second trailer?
That's the second trailer. I think the first one is that first Halloween detective scene. And then we get these small... Like, yes, there's some scenes later on in the movie that are shown, but like very small glimpses. And then you get the I Am Vengeance scene, which is literally the opening scene. And then... But, you know, movies just... I really wish movies could just like stick with one or two trailers, because the moment you start expanding into like 2 or 3 or 4 territory, and you always want to show new footage for some reason, you start showing a lot.
Stay out of the third act, okay? Can you guys do that? Just stay out of the third act.
They mostly stayed out of it. There was a few shots I realized that they had totally thrown in there. There was a scene where, like, with the fog and Batman's just like looks back up in the top. I don't even remember what he had done right before that. I know that he's like a grayish looking color because of like fog or something.
Right. And there's the one where he's like going for Falcone and it's like in the dark and you only see the muzzle flashes. That's like right before they get the Riddler.
And that one literally plays.
Or even like all the stuff when they get the Riddler in the cafe. Like that's like...
That is late in the movie.
That is late in the movie.
Late. And like the scene where he's screaming at the Riddler through the glass is also like super duper
What have
late.
you done? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, we pay too close attention.
Right.
I'm honestly kind of jealous of people that don't know about movies. You literally just go to the theater and like are like, oh, the movie's out.
Yeah. Honestly, dude, I feel that because like being a filmmaker and being in that field has low-key ruined a lot of stuff. Like I can't notice. I always notice bad CGI now. Like I'd be so grateful to be my parents and be like, "Yo, that was so cool. How did they do that?" And I'm like, "That was fake. Like, that's not real." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's not real." I could actually enjoy Marvel MCU movies, bro.
I can enjoy MCU.
Wait, did I just take a shot at MCU movies? Wait.
I think you kind of did.
Wait, what? Their visual effects department? Spider-Man not getting nomination for visual effects at the Oscars? Wait, what?
Like, Yeah, the Batman's an example of like minimal CGI. You have to admit though, like I understand Marvel uses a lot of CGI, but at least it's really good CGI for the most
Yeah, it's
part.
really good.
Like,
There's only one CGI that I really noticed in this is it's when Penguin's card like flips a whole bunch.
I think you are way more like the CGI has to be Walking Dead bad for me to really be sitting there like,
yeah, no,
ugh.
I'm really good at seeing
Or
it. But like most of it, and the fact that like him going through the explosion, like that was all practical. Like
that's insane.
Props to Matt Reeves, dude.
That's some crazy stuff.
Going into like this whole third act stuff, like this is probably like my biggest gripe of the movie is like we finally get to like where they get the Riddler, and I'm like, holy crap, it took us this long just to get the Riddler, and I know it's too easy. Like this isn't it. That didn't feel like a final confrontation, and we have like, it's probably not a fourth act, but it feels like a fourth act where we have to go fight all the Riddler goons, and I'm just like, dude, you could have cut some of it. Like we could have gotten here quicker. Like I get like there's just too many mini bosses for me in this movie. So and then it lessened the effect of the Riddler. Like the Riddler was the main villain, but like screen time wise, he probably doesn't have the most. Which I mean, you don't need to, but it just felt like he was almost playing too much in the background for to be the main attraction.
I think the reason it works is because of those side villains. If you removed them from the equation, yeah, you'd be looking. This movie would not look good. Because without the side villains, without the side activities Batman goes through in this movie, if this were a simple A to B, this movie would be probably less than 60 minutes because a lot of the story is told because of those other characters, and this story would have to be told in a completely different way.
Right, like, but yeah, and just the way, like, you know, like we get that second clue or whatever with the mat, or bring the rat into the light. And that crap doesn't happen for like another, like it doesn't get resolved till forever. So I mean, it's just like that. But I don't know how they would cut this whole maze shorter, but it just is a long maze, and you just got to be ready for it. And so like by the end, I just didn't feel like I got that satisfaction of taking down the Riddler.
It was really odd how they chose to go about it. Out of all and I think this is why I have to sit there and be like, while it's really, really good, it's not better than The Dark Knight, is that its ending is weird. Like, it wasn't a direction I expected them to take. I understood the Riddler succeeding in his plan, but the goons thing was like borderline a step too far. I'm like, wait, hold up. We're going to be dealing with psychopaths and like,
it's almost like a Fight Club ending. I don't know if you've seen Fight Club.
I have not seen Fight Club.
Hope I didn't just ruin Fight Club for you. No, I didn't ruin Fight Club for you. Okay. But yeah, it's like because you know, like the whole thing we talk about is like, you know, we need a strong villain. We don't want a CGI army, and they kind of did that.
It's not.
It wasn't CGI, but it's like just a faceless goons.
Well. They do try and pull it back from just being a faceless. Like, yes, the other ones are faceless, but there's one in there who is not, and that was what I was like. Hold up, was
that the guy in the funeral scene that talked to him? No,
I believe.
Okay, who is that? So guy?
You might have taken a little bit longer to sit down, but I did see that one guy escaped in the opening scene. Yeah, so you see where I'm going with this? So, you know, he got to see him say, I am vengeance, beat the crap out of everyone else.
Oh, okay.
That's why he said...
That's good.
That's why when he asked, what's your name? And he says, I'm vengeance. And that's why you have, like, this long dramatic look at, like... pan of Batman. That is why, because I'm pretty sure he's the only person.
And that's why he beats the absolute tar out of him, right?
No, because he doesn't know. The reason he does, I think, whatever he put into him, just like it's like a.
Oh, he gave himself like adrenaline.
Yeah, he gave him like an adrenaline shot, and so he just. I think he was pissed. I think that was straight up it. He's pissed, and so he just started beating him up.
That's a good connection that I didn't make. I'm glad you pointed that out.
That's kind of why I give it a pass, because I understand so the point of that was to, you know, have him see that. And that's why literally the following scene after he saves everyone and he says, I can't just be vengeance. That's also why he says that.
Yes, because he has to be hope. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, literally missing that can ruin that entire ending.
Yeah, so watch the beginning, guys. But and then like another weird thing, but it's like it's not a gripe, but it's just something like you got to talk about. It's like you can have these good psychological villains like the Riddler, but you don't get that satisfactory end climax like I did with Bane, you know? Because like I could see him face off and get that like final confrontation.
Yeah, it's such a different way you have to approach things like this because yeah, you don't have your last brawl. Your last brawl technically would be the scene at Arkham when they're just talking, when they're both screaming at each other, or they're both just talking to each other. That is that is what a psychological villain is that is your climax.
But I feel like Joker was a psychological villain, and I still got the final brawl with Joker.
Well, but there is, but it was a very so. But Joker has a menacing figure to him, where I feel like the Riddler doesn't. The Riddler,
the Riddler's all mind games. That's it.
Right, and he really truly is. He even admits it. Like, I am not your brawler. Like, I am just some guy. And so, if he had been in that finale, I feel like again you'd be having the same thing where, you know, Batman beats the crap out of someone and he realizes it's a Joker. Like, if they're all wearing masks, you're not going to know who it is. They're all wearing identical masks, so you're not going to know who he is. I don't think there's any way, and the Riddler is not, the way that they built this character, could they have built a Riddler that is a fighter? Sure, but that wasn't what they wanted. And so really, the only way to have done it was like this, but yes, you get that very, like, anticlimactic ending because of it, because you don't have one last word from the villain. Like, the villain's behind bars, and your one last word you get to see. You know, the one thing I would say I'm actually shocked they didn't do is they didn't have Batman go back to Arkham Asylum and speak to him again afterwards. Because I feel like that
I would have liked that more probably. Like if you just had like a final thing.
Yeah, and they kind of tried to execute that with the Joker, but I feel like, I don't know, that one's kind of, I want to say it's kind of flat to me. Like,
what, the Joker reveal?
No, that whole scene is just kind of flat. Like, he's just really mad. He's just talking to some. Like, I understand the point of it, but again, I would have exchanged that for a Batman.
Right. Yeah, that's the one scene that's like a sequel builder scene out of the whole thing.
Yeah, that is literally the only one there is. And we sat through the end credits. There's nothing.
There's something. I don't know what it is, but there's something. It's not.
Isn't it just a? Does it say goodbye, or does it just have the Riddler question mark?
It says goodbye, and then it's got it like flashed a URL for a second. So I'm just curious if you like manage to screen grab that URL and go to a page. It probably has something.
Well, you can find on April 19th when it goes to HBO Max.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm curious if that's gonna hurt this movie. So I know I noticed this. I don't think you did. There was like 20 people that got up in the middle of our movie.
I didn't notice that.
And this is like a 230 seat theater because we went to see an IMAX. Like, people cannot sit through 3-hour movies. They couldn't before. They definitely can't now. People can't sit through movies because of COVID.
Did people walk out of Endgame?
No, I never noticed one person get up during Endgame. This is something I've only started noticing. Could just be the movie. No, this has been every movie I've been to since COVID. Is people cannot sit still. I literally see people go at, like, I will see them, like, granted, I didn't see this at IMAX because most people were just like going up to the bathroom. But like at AMC, I will literally see people like get up out of their seats, go down, out of the theater, and come back with a refill of their drink or something.
Jesus. Like,
these people are like, either they're A, non-invested, or B, they can't, like, they just can't do it. And I've noticed it more and more and more. Maybe I'm just super observant of that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy. Because I figured for this, because it was a fan event, it was, you know, there was only one showing of this, so like only your hardcores.
It would be like the dedicated people, yeah.
I was shocked. So Daniel went to Ron Theater, and so we had that was why we were late. Because he had gotten mixed up on which theater it was, and so I kind of got to watch people entering. I got the people watch for a little bit. There was some people that kept trying to show up. Like, I saw at least, like, I'd say 10 people. So, like, I think it was 2 big groups of, like, 4 or 5. And then there was just, like, 1 or 2 single people that would try and go in. And then they walked out. Never to come back. And I think it's just this, and, for us, like, we're pretty experienced with IMAX. So, like, IMAX has had, for us, we've had reservations at IMAX since 2015. So it's not a very new thing. I still think the idea of reserved seating is still kind of a new thing for a lot of people.
Which is wild, because, like, every theater has it, pretty much.
Yeah,
nowadays.
I mean, the last remaining theaters that
even Superstition has it.
Yeah, the last remaining theaters I knew of that were, like, resistant on reserved seating had to implement it to reopen. And so to see that some people still haven't, adapted to that yet is kind of weird. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just as a movie going in general thing that's going on, I don't know if you've heard about this. AMC is...
I think I heard about this.
Yeah, you probably have. AMC is choosing to, on select movies, charge a premium on these movies, on all showtimes, not just like opening weekend. I believe this is for every showtime.
Yeah, that's not a great move, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not a great move, but I was looking at it. It was a 50-cent increase because I was able to look at a different movie.
50%?
50 cents.
Oh,
not 50.
I thought you said 50%. I was like, no way, dude.
You're like, they're not getting away with that. No one's going to pay. No, 50 cents. I'm still not sure how I feel about that, especially with more and more movies that are only making big money at the theater being these big movies, and then to upcharge them as well. I don't know. It's kind of borderline, like, I don't know. It's really weird. I think we'll talk about it more though next week. I just thought it was an interesting thing because this is the first movie they're doing that with. Considering that we're actually recording this before the weekend, any box office predictions for this before we talk about the visual style of this movie?
I'm not good with numbers. What did Uncharted open to?
Uncharted opened to like 40 or 50 million here.
Crap. And I'm guessing 100 is big, so we'll go, with my inexperienced estimation, we'll go 60 to 80.
All right.
I don't know if that's anywhere close to what it's supposed to do.
A lot of people are saying it can go as high as 185. I'm going to be a little more modest.
I'm going to go that's way off of what I said.
I'm going to go like 95 million to like 135 million. I think 135 million. I think it could exceed it. But I'm also very skeptical of the fact that this is a very dark movie, and I feel like, especially if parents get the idea, like, from the trailers, every trailer, this doesn't look very kid-friendly, so I'm curious if that's going to affect its box office numbers. But at the same time, families aren't, like, the major draw in theaters right now. It's actually, like, singles and couples, but not families. Yeah. Like, family movies are actually doing fairly poorly because families would rather wait for it to go to streaming and pay for all.
You don't want to see Dog, bro?
I straight up told I was like, I'm not seeing this ever. I heard it's better than I think it was gonna be, but I'm like, I don't want to see it.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I feel that, and yeah, especially like it's like so mature. Like I feel like I'd rather let my kids see The Dark Knight than this movie.
Oh, absolutely, because I don't. Like, there's the pencil scene in The Dark Knight, but this scene has a scene, like...
No, this movie literally has one scene that takes place during the day.
Hey, that's lit. I love my nighttime shots.
No, it's cool. And, like, you could tell, like, even the way it's shot, like, they had to use some wide lenses, there's some, like, really close depth of field. Like, to be able to shoot this movie at night, like, all the time is, like, a huge achievement.
Yeah, it must have been such a pain for scenes actually taking place, like... Well, I don't remember what time of year they shot this, but I feel like if you shot it like during the summer where the sun's up more than down,
your window would be so
short. But I think they actually shot this like in the fall or the spring, where there's a little more
Yeah, and just shout out to Robert Pattinson with like all the stunts and everything. You know, it's probably really sweaty in that suit, and plus this movie, it's raining more times than it's not, so that's probably really uncomfortable too.
Yeah, but so we're getting into the last kind of bits here. Let's talk about the score, visuals, cinematography, all the good stuff.
Michael Giacchino, he's got some misses for me, but this is an absolute hit. And it's really hard to stand out for Batman. You know, you got Danny Elfman, you got Hans Zimmer, but I feel like his Batman theme is really good in this movie. And how they use that Nirvana song, really perfect. I think it was in one of the trailers too. But yeah, the music is a win for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, so we showed up late. We're in the hallway because our theater has like this tiny hallway because our IMAX theater is separated from the rest of the theater. Like that's what's really unique about our IMAX is that it is separated from the standard theater, so it's in its own little area. So we're getting like straws.
And we're like, is it started yet? And we hear the song. We're like, oh crap, it started.
Yeah, so we like rush in, and that was when I literally like I think I was the first one in, so I got to see like that first punch, and I think I heard "I am vengeance" as I'm walking, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, it just like the swell and like how it just builds up. It's a great song.
Yeah, and I think I've liked more of this composer's stuff than you have. He did Rogue One, and I thought Rogue One had a really excellent score.
The one.
What is something that he's done that I've probably seen that you didn't like?
First Doctor Strange. It's literally the Star Trek. Because he also did Star Trek. It's literally the Star Trek theme.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, you got me there. Yeah, I did. I remember walking out of Doctor Strange going, score's okay. Visuals were really good. But
yeah, but I mean, he's also he did Up, and you know, if you don't cry in the first 5 minutes of Up, you got no soul. He did that song, man.
I hear it every time I go to Disneyland, so I'm used to hearing that song. I don't tear up when I hear it anymore. I've seen more, like I've heard it more on Main Street than I have seen Up, so I actually associate that song like with Main Street USA at Disneyland and because it's actually at both parks. It's at Disneyland and Disney World. Main Street plays that music on loop, so I just have that. I have that memory of it now at this point because. I mean, outside of the later bit of that song, it's a pretty cheerful song. Outside. of that.
It's a very uplifting song. But I mean, he's also done. I mean, he's done an absolute lot. He's also done Jurassic World, which kind of mixes in John Williams very nicely and has some new stuff too. He's a great composer. Don't get me wrong, and this is one of his better stuff.
I was really shocked with how good that was. But not only was the soundtrack good, the overall sound for this movie was, again, almost another F word, so good. Like, I was sitting there in absolute shock over the sound we were getting in that movie. I mean, the sounds are off the hook. And
shout out to IMAX.
And I'm seeing it in Dolby Cinema on Thursday, and so I'm really excited just to hear that sound with Dolby Atmos this time. Visual style, holy crap, does this movie have? It's very distinct visual style. Daniel already kind of started talking about it, but crap, this movie has one hell of a cinematography job. Every shot looks beautiful. It's so unique.
And like I said, it's literally like a comic book come to life.
Yeah, and you know, I think I've mentioned on this podcast at least a couple times before, but I really love when they just execute something and get it shot in such a way that I'm just like in complete awe of how they did it. But I'm not gonna lie, especially with the fact that like The Dark Knight was one of the first movies in IMAX. It's kind of a shame that this movie has zero IMAX footage whatsoever, because there's a handful of scenes, especially that car chase, that would have been really cool on IMAX.
Yeah. I don't know if like that's... I'm curious if it's the limitations on the camera. Like, I don't know how well they do in low light. And that would have been a huge factor for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because we see a lot of movies nowadays getting shot in IMAX that don't need to be shot in IMAX. And then there's a movie like this where, I mean, it just almost makes sense because it's a big budget movie. A lot of big budget movies nowadays are in that format.
Yeah, I mean, was there IMAX for Planet of the Apes or no?
No, and that's why I kind of give us a pass because this director has never used IMAX
Yeah,
footage yet.
so
And I feel like even like there's a handful of filmmakers out there that will use it, and then outside of that, I feel like there's a handful of filmmakers that are being forced to use it, and I just feel like Warner Brothers gave Matt Reeves so much control. Because I guarantee if Warner Brothers wanted this to be shot in IMAX, they would have forced him to shoot it in IMAX. But I really feel like Warner Brothers was. I'm not even sure at this point. Were they all in on his vision, or were they just so impressed with what he did with the Planet of the Apes trilogy that they gave him this much control? Because I've never seen, especially from Warner Brothers, I've never seen this much creative control outside of maybe J.K. Rowling and Nolan have had this much control.
I was gonna say Nolan. Yeah. I mean, I'm also curious, like, what else was shooting while this movie was shooting, in case like they were using IMAX cameras.
That is a very interesting fact about IMAX.
Because I know that was a huge factor for No Time to Die, is because Nolan was using a majority of the cameras for Tenet.
What I find interesting about IMAX as a whole is that I feel like you only need IMAX. I'm not trying to diss IMAX or anything because I love the format. But what I'm saying is that like to really truly shoot on IMAX, what's the difference in just shooting on a normal one with a wider aspect ratio? Can you tell me what the difference is? I know what the difference is, but I want to see if you know what the difference is.
Wait, what's the question?
What's the difference between shooting a standard movie, like shooting a movie on a standard camera with a higher aspect ratio, and shooting on an IMAX camera?
So like shooting 16:9 versus shooting on IMAX?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it'd be 4:3 technically, but yeah.
Oh, isn't the aspect ratio like a little different?
Yeah, that's like a very minor thing, but like, what's the biggest difference between the two?
Is it the resolution? I really don't know.
Yeah, it's the resolution.
That's what I thought.
And so that's why it's kind of an odd choice sometimes, where it's like, well, we didn't have IMAX cameras available. Well, why didn't you just shoot it in a? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my IMAX movies, and I love the way they're shot, and I love how they look, and X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, you have a filmmaker like Snyder who didn't have access to an IMAX camera, or pretty much chose he wanted the whole movie in IMAX, knew he wouldn't get his hands on an IMAX camera, and so pretty much went his way in shooting it like that. And that's how you get, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I feel like if Matt Reeves really wanted to, but again, everyone associates with that 21:9 image, that widescreen image, to being very cinematic. And so I understand why, because, this movie kind of feels like, a testament of cinema. I mean, it's this outside of Spider-Man, it's probably the biggest release we've seen since COVID hit.
Right. And then another thing too, like, at least like if I was making this movie from a creative choice, having that bigger IMAX ratio would have been a little bit brighter and more open and kind of contrast the kind of mood and tone that I'm going for.
Yeah, I've heard a lot with that, is that the IMAX camera can really be janky with the way it lets light in. And so maybe,
but not even that. It's just the lack of the black at the top and bottom, if you're watching like at home or something. Yeah.
I don't know. It was a very interesting move. It's been a while since I've seen a big budget movie not have any IMAX. I probably couldn't even tell you like a superhero movie specifically that hasn't had IMAX footage in probably the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Logan, thing too, that would actually be the last one. Logan was the last one that had zero IMAX footage. But granted, that one I don't know. I feel like for action movies, I feel like IMAX is great for action. And like Logan had some action, but like this movie has the car chase, and I feel like that would have been really cool in IMAX. I don't know if there's any other scene specifically. I mean, the added height might have been really nice. In the final scene when they're on the balcony, like I feel like that expanded aspect ratio would have been pretty cool. Maybe. But yeah, there's not a ton of scenes. Yeah, I feel like both things combined. No, like, you know what? No IMAX footage, it's okay because the movie's freaking great, and the way it's shot is great. The presentation is like A+.
Yep. Yeah, and I just want to point out, cinematographer was, I'm pretty sure his name is Greg Fraser, also shot Dune.
Really? Did this guy also work on Planet of the Apes? or do you not know?
I'm not sure.
Because I'm not gonna say so. There are some similarities in how he shoots this in Planet of the Apes, but for the most part, like this is its own thing. I kind of do like though, like because in Planet of the Apes Dawn, you have that opening scene, and I feel like he didn't reuse it, but he kind of reused that. Like not scene for scene, but like he really likes to start his movies in the middle of something.
Right, yeah.
And that's
which, I mean, it's a good way to start movies.
It's
right
a very
in the action.
it's a very unique way because there's a handful of movies that do it, and there's a handful of movies that don't. And I really like the way his movies start. Like even though I have my issues with War, it has that same kind of intro to it.
Yeah, it starts in the middle of a battle. I just looked it up. He did not do the planet. He did not. This guy did not shoot the Planet of the Apes. He did shoot Rogue One though.
All right. Golden. That's golden too. Okay, regardless of your gripes with Rogue One,
it's Rogue One's a beautiful looking movie. Yeah. No problems there.
So, is there anything else I may have forgotten about in this movie? I feel like we've talked about it all. We talked about Batman. We've talked about Robert Pattinson. We've talked about the Riddler. We talked about the other villains. The Bat Pod is not a thing in this one. The Bat Tank, but my God, his car is cool. I don't think I mentioned that yet. So I'm kind of just gonna.
It's like a souped up muscle car.
I mean, I didn't think the car was gonna be that cool, but like seeing that thing go on film was like pretty cool.
Yeah, and just like the roar of the engine in the IMAX was just really awesome.
Yeah, literally. Riddler, really good villain. I really truly feel he was underused. Like it's kind of a shame how underused he was. I thought he was gonna get used a lot more in the third act, and he kind of just got sidelined.
But to me, still top 3 Batman villain.
Joker.
I'm gonna go Bane ahead of Riddler. I'm going Bane ahead of Riddler.
Bane, okay. I was curious. I was like, is it gonna be Bane or was it gonna be Ra's al Ghul?
Yeah, no, but I mean, he's still up there, and it's a top 3 Batman movie for me too.
Yeah, and I would love to see Jeffrey Wright and Robert Pattinson back for a sequel. I really love that dynamic. I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see Batman do more investigations. I'd love to see Batman against this new Joker. I'd love to see a brand new Joker and not just a crazy one like we saw in Suicide Squad from Jared Leto. And, I'd love to see more of the type of things I saw in this movie. I'd love to see some of his combat again. And I'm glad that Batman is still sticking to this gritty territory. I know that a lot of people in this day and age don't want a dark, gritty movie, but like Batman is a character that needs to be dark and gritty. And, time and time again, it proves the point that this character is just, that's how its themes, and everything works with it, because we've seen lighthearted Batman movies, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever. So like, I'm really glad that even though, Warner Brothers.
Okay, you remind me of something.
What?
Is that kid gonna be Robin?
I didn't even think about it, but like considering how young Robert Pattinson's Batman's supposed to be, it might be a possibility. Not in the next one, maybe like 2 movies from now. Yeah, maybe.
Because like they got like he's like an orphan now, and they got that similar thing. He understands him. He looks out for the kid. I could see it.
Right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, literally, he dives in front of a car for him.
Yeah.
And I think,
and then I
think one of the most shocking deaths in this movie, like most shocking scene for me, was the scene with the guy with the bomb strapped to his neck, and like the fact the fact that he actually blew up. I'm like, whoa, all right.
Yeah. That was intense.
But yeah, I mean, so like my final words I have to say about this movie is congratulations, Warner Brothers. This is now the second movie literally in less than 6 months where you've given the filmmaker 100% control of what they released, 100% control of what they made. And
talking about Suicide Squad?
Oh, I guess we've had 3 because we've had Suicide Squad, Dune, and now this.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
yeah, we've had all 3 of these movies. And, Warner Brothers, especially after the Zack Snyder incident,
and the Chris Nolan incident.
And I've heard Patty Jenkins got the same problems, except for Wonder Woman 1984, but I heard that she got it in the first Wonder Woman movie. But, after, being a very controlling studio, I mean, I think I'm not saying financially it might not, because I know that Suicide Squad didn't make money, but at least from a critical reception, audience reception, these movies are really freaking good and people really, really like them. And so I just really hope Warner Brothers stays on this track of giving these filmmakers the power to make what they want and how they want to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, my final thing is congrats Warner Brothers on, giving Matt Reeves the freedom to do what he wants, because, we don't get these kind of movies anymore, these big budget, like I mentioned. Like, if you liked the Batman, you need to go watch Zodiac. You need to go watch Seven. David Fincher's movies are great, and we don't get these big blockbuster thriller serial killer investigation movies anymore, and to see that still keep going on in this like Batman frame is really refreshing. And like, in terms of superhero saturation, I'm in very dire need of refreshing superhero movies, and this totally hit.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's just amazing in this day and age to take a risk like this. I mean, this is a $200 million movie. It is a 3-hour-long movie. And, Robert Pattinson as Batman was definitely not a very good news to a lot of people. A lot of people complained about this. And to see this then come out, and people pretty much, if they didn't jump on board with the trailers, to pretty much go, yeah, I was wrong. And Robert Pattinson pretty much proving the opposite, that, no, I can do this and you'll see. Like, I mean, I think it's just truly epic. And the fact that Matt Reeves put pretty much everything on the line to bring Robert Pattinson in for this role is just outstanding.
Yeah, did Matt Reeves win you back, Anthony?
I mean, I wasn't ever like a tarnished fan of his. I just didn't like that last choice from Ward to Planet of the Apes, and I think he definitely has some work to do. I think Dawn was his best ending. I think this and War definitely have some issues in their ending. Dawn is his best ending, and I think the only reason
Dawn's his best movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think the reason Dawn's work is because it really leads up to that moment. I mean, the whole movie is led to this one moment, and I feel like the Batman does it, but in a very different way that doesn't quite come down like that.
The other reason why Dawn works is because Andy Serkis literally carries that movie on his back.
Literally.
And then another thing too, like you were talking about, like, like it's a 3-hour movie, $200 million budget. It's similar. It's not completely the same, but like, where was the love for Blade Runner 2049, fellas?
I give everyone who didn't see that movie. Okay, so there's a big difference here. That movie was over budget to begin with. That movie never. It
was over budget, and it had terrible marketing, which are the big differences.
I say its runtime, on top of its R rating, on top of its budget, was like the triple stack of things against it. And thankfully, this movie doesn't have that. I've heard a lot. I was one of the people that really thought the Batman was going to be rated R. I understand why it's not. It could, and after change the camera angle or two. Like we were saying early on, we're just like, they switched a few things here or there, we would have gotten a very rated R movie. But I'm actually kind of glad it's PG-13. Again, I've heard this argument before that going with a PG-13 rating pretty much forces a filmmaker to be a little more creative in how they do things, because they can't explicitly show everything. And you can definitely feel that in this movie.
Yeah, no, it helped, and good job.
And a shout out to the F word being in the first 5 minutes of this movie. I was shocked to hear that early.
I was like, whoa, we're here already. I was like, wait, it's PG-13, right? We still got a whole another 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm done giving my props to this movie. Eventually, we need to stop and just, we've given it.
Yeah, I will have to edit this, and preferably not super long.
Nah, dude, we're gonna end up this long.
But that's because it was this good, and we had good things to say about it. But that's gonna do it for us. I hope you guys go out and see the Batman, because it deserves your love. It is great, and we'll check you guys in next week talking about something special.
Yeah, we're not gonna reveal it here. Might have left a little hint inside this video. I don't know if anyone's gonna catch it, but honestly, it was it wasn't a big one, but it was a little nod. So, but we'll see you guys next week on a very nice, touching, special episode.
All right, guys, take care. See you next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Timebreaker Podcast. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and make sure to ring that notification bell for new episodes every Wednesday.
See you next week.